conclusions. I'm a ray of sunshine. There's no conclusions back there. Back there is, well, what I'm talking about is the D1, the D2 in this series right here. Then now we're in the D3. Well, the D1 and D2 don't have conclusions at the end of the video. They just, well, you'll see. If you haven't seen it yet, you'll see they don't have an appropriate ending. And so, but that happened for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, so they say, right? And yep, this happened for a reason. The reason is because it illustrates what's going on with all of the previous videos in my series that don't come to conclusions. Which doesn't mean they don't have endings at the end of the videos, because some of them do. Most of them do. They all do. They all have endings. And some of them may be more appropriate than others, but they have endings. But they don't all, during the course of the video, don't necessarily have conclusions. And I kind of like it that way. And I kind of have a feeling that you pretty much like it that way too, just coming to your own conclusions. And I discovered a like for that many years ago when I was going through a sexual identity crisis and trying to find myself. And one day, this happened one day. It was an awakening, and overnight. One day I was one way, and one day. And by the way, that's what I thought this whole shift was going to be like. One day you're like one way, and one day you're like the next day. And we're kind of like that, and I show that in all those previous videos, all those different rays of sunshine. There's a transition going on. Just like with lasagna. Lasagna has gone through a transition. And I was thinking of that yesterday, actually. I was telling you the bean story about my sister with the most wonderful beans that everybody worships and loves, her beans. And she's been perfecting it for years now, but she's resistant because there's been a new development with beans. Well, I have the whole story over there, but just give you the overview. There's been a new development with beans, which wasn't the same thing as it was many years ago when I was first started cooking. Which now you don't have to soak your beans, and they come out the same way. So she has been resistant to trying that, and that's okay because the routine that she's in, soaking her beans and developing the recipe that she develops, and everybody being in love with her beans, is what makes her happy, and there's nothing wrong with that. She's just, and she's afraid of losing that, so she's resistant to going through the change. With lasagna, that's another example of a change, of an evolution, of a transformation. And lasagna, at one time that I remember when I started cooking, which I was very young when I started cooking, so it was a long time ago. And as far as I know, it had been like this for a long time, that you cook your lasagna noodles before you assemble your lasagna to bake it. Somewhere along the way, over the course of these decades that we've just come through, somebody came up with the realization that you don't have to pre-cook your lasagna. You just put them in there hard and you adjust the recipe a little bit. And so when I heard about that, I was excited because that's a process, and especially if you're doing a lot of cooking, and I did, I have many of those stories in the previous videos about my catering business, but so when you're doing a lot of cooking, shortcuts come in handy, and the idea is that the end product comes out the same. Just like with the beans, whether you soak the beans or don't soak the beans, the report is that they come out the same. I haven't tried it because I haven't made beans in a long time, but I used to make a lot of beans. I always used to soak my beans. I'm very confident, because why? Why would somebody give you that information? Why would they say, this is the way this works and you don't have to soak your beans? They would have no motivation, just like I would have no motivation to sending you back to any one of my the before videos to discover how you deal with discovering different. On yesterday's and the video, the other D video before then, I I might have given the impression I got a little bit carried away, with talking about looking in the mirror and oh yeah, I just my best buddy now, and I like you and all that stuff. So I actually do that stuff in the morning and get all carried away and all bouncy. And what I show, even though it looks a little bit exaggerated on those videos, is just a little sampling of what I actually do when I get excited. And the reason I do that is because that's the kind of thing that I would have done for other people. I'd do that for my grandchildren. I'd do that and to make people laugh and say something funny and that sort of thing. And that's me, and I feel natural and feel comfortable doing that. But it never occurred to me in the past to do that with myself. So now I'm learning about becoming my own best friend, and I learned that I learned a lot of the way I like to be treated by my best friend Sid, who's no longer on this planet with us, but I have a million stories about Sid in a lot of those before videos, which are there for a reason. And I want to tell you about my Oracle layout, just because it's fun. Because, well, maybe you don't know me, but if you don't know me, whether you know me or not, you're going to know me now. There's no such thing as too much fun. You can't possibly have too much happy. And so I think of ways to contribute to that. And that is another plan of what's going on in my video series here, because this is a fun, and I have spoken about this in a lot of the other videos too, but in my emergence in this lifetime, I've dabbled in many different things that I became very good at. And then you move on to something else. So there's stories about my catering business, and about doing calligraphy, and about different kind of hobbies and different kind of involvements, different activities over the course of time that you ultimately master if you stick with it for long enough. And I've had many of those experiences. Right now, that's all emerging for people on this planet. Some people, and for some people, faster than for others. So that's what my program is all about, that emergence. And so I've discovered things along the way. I've stumbled across things, and I've deliberately looked for them to increase happiness, because you can't have too much happy. There's no such thing as too much happy. So why not contribute to it? And I have found ways to do that, and I share those with you. So those are all in my newly established Oracle setup. So if you go to my playlist, you'll see, there's all my thumbnails, all those blue and white icon things with that red bird. That red bird, that's a messenger with a big message for you back there in one of those Oracle videos. So the way that works, or the way it can work, and I think it's kind of fun, is you go to that page and either pick one of those out, either point to one, or you can just kind of glance at those titles, because, well, they all say the same main heading, the learning, loving, and loving living, and then they have the little titles, the little clues underneath, which you don't really get on regular Oracle cards, but these are little signals of something that's going to be the topic inside of that. So one of those might speak to you, or maybe the position of one might speak out to you, and maybe there's a message there for you to discover. And maybe there's a message here or a message there for somebody else to discover, which they wouldn't ordinarily have the chance to discover if you didn't do something different to discover something different, and send this video to some character who otherwise wouldn't have gotten this video if it wasn't for you. And it's fun. So that's what I do in the mirror. I go bonkers, and I hop around, and I say, yeah, you're the coolest guy, and I love you, love you, love you, and I get all excited, because it's different. It's different for me, and I find it fun. I find it exuberating. We all have our gifts that are bubbling up, and they're emerging now. This is this part of the evolution where we're sprouting, and we've planted the seeds, and the blossoming is starting to occur. Things, the color is starting to come out, like my shiny new penny hairstyle that I have. Oh, I didn't tell you, I'm wearing my this is my tropical storm outfit, because this tropical storm is just clearing up. As you can see there, the sun is trying to come outside there, but it was very heavy overcast, very heavy rain earlier, and I was wearing my favorite robe to snuggle up to, because it's my favorite robe for all occasions, and I thought this would be appropriate for this particular video, especially now that we're getting to know each other and getting a little bit more comfortable with each other. So I'm going to tell you about. I'm going to finish up. I'm going to tell you about when the end of this video is coming, and it's coming pretty soon, because I'm shooting for 11 minutes, and we're getting there now. So it's going to be in the 11-minute range, and that oracle game is you go back there, you pick one of those, and that's going to be your oracle reading for the day. Or if you prefer, at the end of this video, which is just about happening any second now, you can click on one of those boxes on the side of my head.